Shabbat Shalom. We're going to be a little bit out of order today because I want to remind us of the importance of being able to convene. And so for now, our first song tonight is the Ma Tovu, and it's in the Siddur on page 101, on page 101 in the Siddur. And Ma Tovu typically is recited or sung or chanted or meditated upon as people walk into the synagogue in the morning service. It's really associated with the nuance of some of the Hebrew is wakefulness, and therefore it's usually associated with the morning service. But it can be recited or sung or meditated upon on any occasion that people walk into the synagogue. And the opening two words should be seen as a giant exclamation point. Ma is sometimes understood in Hebrew as a question word, what? But it can also mean how, as an exclamation. Ma tovu, how great it is, how good it is. Ma tovu lecheko, to be part of a synagogue, to be able to come into a synagogue, to establish ourselves as constituent and contributing elements of a Jewish community. That's Ma tovu, and we need to remind ourselves of that at night as well. So we're on page 101, and this is a melody from Danny Massing, Ma tovu.
Ma tovu, Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma tovu, Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, vani berov chasdecha, ahavo beitecha, eshtachave lecha al kodshecha, beiratecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha, umekom mishkan kevodecha, mishkan kvodecha, vani eshtachave bechra, ebrecha lifnei Adonai, osi, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, vani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chasdecha, Elohim berov chasdecha, aneni be'emet yishecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu.
And now we're turning to the song book. We have these blue song books tonight. And if you will, turn to page 81. Page 81, and I'll explain why we're turning to the song book. Number one, because I feel like it. And number two, we don't sing enough of other Jewish songs. Sometimes we seem to find ourselves only in the Siddur. And the song that I've selected tonight as also a preparatory song before we get to the Shalom Aleichem is here on page 81. It's at the bottom of the page. The words are Dodi Li. The original context of this, which starts on the bottom of page 81, goes to the top of the next page, is the biblical scroll known as Shir HaShirim, the book of Song of Songs. If you read carefully through most of Shir HaShirim, which is considered a Megillah, just like the Megillah of Esther and Ruth and Lamentations and Ecclesiastes, you'll see that the poetry is filled with love. Historically, this is probably a love poem, maybe even a love song of a man of and for a woman, but frankly, it was so popular thousands of years ago that people didn't want to have it set by the wayside, and so you might say that it was reinterpreted to symbolically describe the love between God and the nation of Israel. That was a cover story which allowed very loving, exotic love to be brought into the Bible. So it got the seal of approval because people see it metaphorically as love between God and Israel. But frankly, you and I know that when you look at this and other elements of this same text, which often permeate Jewish wedding imagery and ketubas and part of the service as well, we know we're talking about love between man and a woman. Bearing that in mind, Dodi Li is a very pretty piece, and it's found here on the bottom of page 81 to the top of page 82. And this evening, we have a presentation from another synagogue singing Dodi Li, and let's all sing along.
Dodi Li va'ani lo Shoshanim, Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim, mizot olam min hamidbar, mizot olam mekuteret mor ulevona, mor ulevona. Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim, Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim, libavtini achoti kala, libavtini kala, libavtini achoti kala, libavtini kala. Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim, Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim. Urit tzafon, uvuit teman, urit tzafon, uvuit teman. Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim, Dodi Li va'ani lo haroeh b'Shoshanim.
And now we're turning to page 5 in the Siddur, the Shalom Aleichem on page number 5 in the Siddur, page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 11, Lachuna Ranana. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, ladonai. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, ladonai. Naria, naria, litzur yishenu, nikadma fana bitoda. Naria, naria, litzur yishenu, pizmira naria lo. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, ladonai. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, ladonai. Naria, naria, litzur yishenu, nikadma fana bitoda. Naria, naria, litzur yishenu, bizmiro naria lo. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice, hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like that time at Massah in the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. 40 שנה כותבתו ואומר תוהי לב אבהם והם לא ידעו דרכי אשר נשבעתי ויפי אם יבואון אל מנוחתי. And on page 13. Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai all the earth. Sing to Adonai, praise God's name. Day after day, tell of God's deliverance. Tell the nations of God's glory. Speak of God's wonders among all peoples. For Adonai is great, surely to be praised. more revered than other gods. For the gods of the nations are man-made idols, but Adonai fashioned the very heavens. Grandeur and glory are God's honor guard. Strength and joy where God is found. Offer to Adonai, peoples of the world. Offer to Adonai honor and strength. Offer to Adonai the honor due God's name. Bring a gift of thanksgiving and enter God's presence. Kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek v'amim b'emunato. And on one of the song sheets, you see at the top of the page, it's small print. The term is Elohai. We know the name Eloheinu, that means our God. Elohai means my God. And we often sing and often pray with the word Eloheinu, but we don't emphasize enough the individual connection. And that's why I'm selecting this piece today, which comes from the prayer book. The words are Elohai, and transliterated Nitzor Lishoni Meira Usafatai Medaber Mirma. The translation is, oh my God, help me. Guard my tongue from speaking evil, and help me to guard my lips from speaking deceit. Elohai.
Elohai, 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 Nitzor Leshoni Meira, Usvatai, 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 Midaber Mirma. Nai, 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 nai. Nine, 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 Elohai, 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 Nitzor Leshoni Meira. Elohai, 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 so lishoni meira.
L'charudi is on page 23, and we just learned the word Dodi from that song Dodi Li. Dodi means my beloved one. So now we come to L'charudi, which is a very well-known poem, but frankly, the poetry and the Hebrew are a little convoluted. So Lacha means, come on, let's go. Dodi is my beloved one. Come on, my beloved one, let's go. Likrat kala, out to the bride. So who's the bride? Shabbos. Shabbat is considered the bride. So come on, my beloved one, let's go meet Shabbat the bride. Well, who's my beloved one? Who's going with me to greet Shabbos? Which is why it's very simple Hebrew, but the meaning behind it is very convoluted. It might mean that we're talking to Shabbat itself about coming with each one of us to go greet Shabbat, but that doesn't really make sense. So maybe it means we're talking to God. Come on, God, let's go greet Shabbat together, which is a very pretty idea. But remember, this is written by a mystic about 500 years ago in northern Israel. He was a Kabbalist, so who knows what he intended. So we have simple words, but the message is a little elusive. But inside this is a yearning for each individual to in some way access God and restfulness, a sense of holiness and grandeur through song and movement. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, l'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lekrat Shabbat lechuven elcha, ki mekor habaracha, merosh mekedem nisucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Page 25, Yamin. Yamin osmo tifrotzi, v'et Adonai ta'aritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Bo'e v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, toch emunei am segula, bo'e chala bo'e chala. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Not seated yet. Remember, we're on the threshold, but we're not quite into Shabbos yet. And we're in the month of Elul, approaching Rosh Hashanah. And it's traditional to blow the shofar 1 tekiah a day. That's your tekiah will do you. Just 1 tekiah a day. That's all you need. Doctor, it's an inoculation, getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. But we don't blow the shofar on Shabbos. So if we wait a few more minutes, we're in Shabbat, we don't blow the shofar. So we Here's a breaking point. One tekiah. Tekiah. And now, maybe seated. We're on the Psalm for Shabbat on page number 27. Shabbat is arriving momentarily. And the day of the week, and the older I get, the more this strikes me every single week. The day of the week, Shabbos itself reminds us of the importance of saying thank you. That's Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, Tov Lodot, the importance of saying thank you. Page 27. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lodot LaAdonai, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon, Ulezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Lahagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha balelot alei asor v'alei navel alei higayon bechinor mizmor shir liyom hashabbat tov lodot l'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Zamer l'shimcha elyon, ki simach Adonai b'folecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranim, ma'agalo ma'asecha Adonai, me'od amaku machshavotecha, mizmor shir liyom ha'shabbat, Tov lodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. It is good to thank you, Adonai, to sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. On page 30, this is the introductory, you might say, Morris Kaddish. Is anybody reciting? If anybody is reciting the Kaddish, they're invited to rise at this time. We'll mention the names a little bit later on. Page 30. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah ba'olma divrach yirutei v'mlich machutei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zaman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbo mevorach la'olam l'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shmei dekudesha b'richu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. We rise now, please, to Borchu, page 39b. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. We are seated. A moment of silence, the bracha on page 39b on the Hebrew or English side. Umaver yom umevi loylo mavdil ben yom uvein loylo l'noitzvot shmo el chai v'kayam tamidim lo chalen olam voed baruch ata Adonai hama'ariv aravim. On page number 40, on the English side, the last two lines, the little red arrowhead, that's the Chatimah, that's the main part. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people Israel. V'avotecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. And please turn to the other song sheet. It's entitled Rik Rekt. The very top of the page, you see the title. Anachnu means we. Mevorachim are blessed. Anachnu mevorachim, we are blessed. Bilvavot, a little play here. Bilvavot means with hearts. Ohavim, of love. With hearts of love, with loving hearts. Anachnu mevorachim bilvavot ohavim, and that refrain recurs throughout his song. We have the English and the Hebrew lyrics before us. Rik Rekt, Anachnu mevorachim.
Each other, we are blessed to have eyes to see the good in the world. We are blessed to have ears to hear the words of love. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. We are blessed to have time to understand. We are blessed to have choice, to live where we want to live. We are blessed to have voices, to sing this song. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. We are blessed to have life, live in freedom. We are blessed to have hearts to love each other. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim.
Shema, page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam b'shivtecha b'beitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha v'kishartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha v'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha. A few moments of silence concerning the meditations or the commentary on pages 41 or 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. Pardon me? Yes, it is. We say the Shema twice a day, and the reason is that if you look at the opening stanza on page 41, it's the fourth line down in Hebrew, Vishinantam lemenacha, teach these words to your children, Vidibarta bam, speak about them, Vishivtecha, when you sit, Pevetecha, in your home, Uvalechtecha vaderech, when you walk upon your way, Uvishachbecha, which means, and when you lie down, Uvkumecha, and when you rise up. And of course, this comes from the Torah 3,000 years ago. So as generations began to respond to this and take hold of this and make it into what you and I call a prayer, they paid attention to lying down and rising up. And lying down typically at nighttime and rising up typically in the morning. And so when our ancestors developed a prayer service, one for the morning and one for the evening, guess what was put in the center point? The Shema, because of the evening and the morning. So it's the same passage, yes, morning and evening. Yes, exactly right. on page 44, Mi Chamocha. Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lot ol seifele, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokeh yam lifnei Moshe, zeili anu Yamru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed V'ne'emar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo mi'ad chazak mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Gal Yisrael. And it's that last phrase, Ga'al Yisrael, which speaks of God once a long time ago, you protected Israel. On page 45, we've Hashkivenu, which is the opposite of Dayenu. I'm making a little bit of a pun, you might say. Because when we say Haggadah, and we say Dayenu and Haggadah, we say, oh, it's enough. Not when it comes to peace and protection, safety. It's not enough that happened once a long time ago at the Exodus. We need peace and safety and protection every single day, every single night. On page 45, on the English side, the last 5 lines. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. That means today, right now, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch Ata Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. The top of page 46, Vishamru, and we have a melody here before us. Vishamru, the top of page number 46.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beini Israel, Beini uvein bnei Israel, Oti leolam, Oti leolam, V'shameru bnei Israel, et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. Hi sheishet yamim, Ki sheishet yamim, Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'inafash, v'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
V'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'amat v'kavtei b'chayechon, uv'yom echon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Bagala, bagala, uvisman karif, vimero, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, l'olam li'al me'al maya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitparvim v'yinaseh, v'yidhadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudesh abrechu, leila mekor b'chata v'shirata, tush b'chata, v'nechemata, Ta'amiran Balma, V'imero, Amen. Rise, silent Amida, the traditional text, page 47 to 52, or an opportunity to offer a personal private prayer of our own devising at this moment. A few moments of silence. There are many ways of understanding Torah. An ancient comment is that the Torah has 70 different personalities. The actual Hebrew word used is a face, a punim. The Torah has 70 faces, which means that every time you look at the Torah, you can gain a different understanding of what Torah is. And here we are as Jewish people living 3,000 plus years after episodes and events in the Torah, and yet we still turn to it as a beacon, as a guide. This week's Parsha is a compelling Parsha because there's so many different tones within the Parsha. And frankly, don't think that what I'm going to say means that the Torah is in any way a mamby-pamby text, because the Torah does not shy away from capital punishment or other stringencies, as we well know. This Parsha is one of the biggest Parsha in terms of number of mitzvahs. There are 64 mitzvahs in this Parsha, covering a wide variety of different experiences and rituals and daily life experiences within the context of Moses is saying essentially to the people of Israel, pay attention to Josh, because I'm going to die in a little bit and he's going to take you into the promised land and you're going to have to set up shop and you're going to have to live in a society. And we know that last week, much of the parsha was devoted to establishing courts of law. But I don't want to talk about courts of law because we talked about it last week. I want to highlight 4 very quick mitzvot, and then I will put forth a message. And 4 mitzvot. Number 1, if an Israelite soldier goes out into combat and he sees an attractive woman from the foreign camp, he says, wow, she's pretty. He can take her. Spoils of war. Would we call that kidnapping? Conquest? Spoils of war. Go ahead, take the woman. But by the way, if you take the woman and you bring her into your life, you can't touch her for 30 days. You thought she was beautiful? She's allowed to put on garments of mourning because she's been taken away from her society, her community, and her family, and she knows she'll never see her family again, and let her mourn and weep. And by the way, she can't do her hair or her nails for 30 days. So you think she's really pretty. How's she going to look wearing garments of mourning and she hasn't done her hair or her nails for a month and she's been weeping? Is she going to be as pretty as when you first saw her and she just had her hair and her nails done before you conquered that tribal land? Probably not. But once you take her, then you have to marry her. She becomes a full-fledged wife and you can never divorce her. Mitzvah 1. Mitzvah 2, you're walking along and you happen to see a bird's nest with a mama bird sitting on the nest, and there might be eggs or there might be fledglings in the nest, and they didn't have grocery stores back then, and if you wanted eggs, you took them when you found them. And if you want the eggs or the baby birds, you can have them, but first shoo the mama bird away so that she doesn't see that you are taking the eggs or the fledglings. Mitzvah number 3, and there are another 60, but I'm going to stop at 4. Mitzvah number 3, you know those Egyptians, the ones who enslaved you? You're not allowed to bear a grudge against them. Because once, a long, long time ago, before the shift of heart with Pharaoh, you were wandering, you needed a place to live, and you settled, and they gave you a place to live. Those are the Egyptians, and you know how much we talk about Egypt, and don't ever go back. Don't harbor a grudge. And furthermore, the next mitzvah that I want to talk about is, if you see an animal and it comes along and it seems to have lost its way, and you can identify that it belongs to a fellow Israelite somewhere way down yonder, and whether it gets lost or it collapses under its heavy burden, you have to take care of the animal, and then when possible, you have to return the animal to somebody, even if that person lives a long distance away, which means an expense upon your part. Now, you're allowed to go out into battle. You see a pretty girl, you can grab her, you can take her. And by the way, there are other elements in this parsha which reflect upon the requirements for what we would call sacred battle, which makes about as much sense as, anyway, sacred battle. The Torah does not shy away from battle. The Torah does not shy away from capital punishment. What are we to do with these 4 mitzvot, which I've pulled out of 64? Don't bear a grudge against Egyptians. If you want a woman from a foreign enemy that you've conquered in battle, you can, but you have to follow certain constraints. You have to take care of somebody else's neighbor's cow or donkey, even if it puts you in a position of limited financial benefit. And don't forget about those birds and the mama eggs. And I would say that what the Torah is putting forth as a message to people who are transitioning from Moses to Joshua is, don't abuse your power. If I had to take 64 mitzvot in this week's Parsha and swallow it up, putting it in a blender and then pressing a button, and the sum total is, don't abuse, don't misabuse, don't misuse your power. Yes, you are entitled to utilize your power. Indeed, you are commanded to use your power as an Israelite, as an individual, as a member of the community, as a member of the society, and a society writ large. But don't go beyond the rightful and just use of your power. And that would apply to how you interact with people, your own fellow Israelites internally within the community, people outside your community, a woman who is entitled to be conquered and taken, or Egyptians as well, and animals. You're a member of the house of Israel, and you're going to build a society, and that society has to be framed within the proper and balanced use of power, from an individual point of view, from a family point of view, from a clan point of view, from a tribal point of view, from a national point of view. But you have to have an awareness and a sense of where your power has to stop, and how you, as a human being, descended from Abraham and Sarah, have to contain your use of power in the sphere of interaction with fellow Israelites, in the sphere of interacting with animals, in the sphere of interacting with former enemies, in the sphere of interacting with enemies right now. You can't act whatever the heck you want to do, or however the heck you want to do, because you're a child of God. And I want us to understand what it means now. We are descended from those descendants. And many of those 64 mitzvot may not actually apply to us, but the message, the power, the holiness within those mitzvot still pertains to us today. And when you and I get up in the morning as children of Israel, children of God, we have to understand how and when to use our power. May we be so guided. And we say, Amen.
I have a story, a slight story, it won't take long. I think a boy meets a girl, a man meets a woman, and they see each other more and more often, and they love each other. You know? And now it comes time for marriage. So the man says, I'd like to marry you, but I don't think I can support you the way you are right now. She's very kind of wealthy, and he wasn't as wealthy as she was. So she said to him, well, if I get married to you, I expect to be supported the way I was before the marriage, the way I was when I was single. I mean, you kind of sympathize with it, but not somebody empathize with it, but not sympathize with it. I mean, what would a person do in that respect? Just say goodbye?
Let's talk about that after Kiddush, all right?
What?
Let's talk about that maybe after Kiddush. For now, thank you. Let's turn to the Olenu, and we rise. The Olenu is in the Siddur on page number 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asana kgoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adamam, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigoraleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz umoshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal ushchinatu zo begavei meromim hu Eloheinu enod Wefezulato kakatu betorato fiatata yom vashevota elvavecha ki Adonai hua Elohim bashamayim mimal fial haaretz mitachot enod. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu, Yehieh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. We are seated. In a moment, we'll turn now to page number 59, and then the Mourner's Kaddish. Remember, we are approaching Rosh Hashanah, and there's a tradition to recite this psalm here on page 59 every morning and every evening leading up to Rosh Hashanah into Yom Kippur and halfway into the holiday of Sukkot. And look at the first three stanzas leading up to the little red ink on the top of page 59, the English side. Adonai is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, my enemies and those who besiege me, it is they who stumble and fall. Should an armed camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. If they were to go to war against me, of this I would be sure. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is what I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness, and to pray in God's sanctuary. Achat shalti meit Adonai otavakesh. Achat shalti meit Adonai otavakesh. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yamei chayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulavaker behechalo. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulavaker behechalo. And now for the Mourner's Kaddish. On this Shabbat we remember with great love Ike Gerwich, Nancy Howell, Benny Friedlander, Faye Klein, Max Gottlieb, Sarai Polanski, Louise Goldrich, Elisa Weissman, Bernard Rosenthal, Bert Signoff, John Shepard, Ida Schneiderman, Donald Goldrich, Rose Schwartz, Tema Silberman, Donna Smith. Are there any other names to mention this evening? Perhaps somebody at home has a name to share as well. Those at home joining in are invited to rise. Kaddish is on page 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chaye chon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'miru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabah mivarach la'olam ol'olmei ol'mayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'miru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imiru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Let's remember, Kaddish doesn't speak of sorrow or loss, and it speaks of peace over and over again. And the concluding message for anyone or the entire community that might be saying or listening to Kaddish is, we pray for peace for everyone. That's how, Labriel, we conclude our service this evening and every evening. And for all those who are joining in, we hope to see you in the near future in person. Until that point, may God bless you. You are loved.